I always believed that staying completely invisible was the only way to survive the brutal corporate ladder. They told me to keep my head down and never attract attention from the high executives. But on a chaotic morning in our main office building, everything changed because of an elderly man who everyone else chose to ignore. My decision to step forward shattered my quiet routine forever. 6 months ago, I was just a low-ranking marketing assistant at a massive advertising firm in downtown Chicago. My daily reality consisted of standing by the copy machine for hours and fetching coffee orders for people who never bothered to learn my name. I convinced myself that blending into the background was the safest strategy for my career. It felt safer to hide than to fail. I had not always been this timid, but college rejections and failed opportunities had completely drained my confidence. The only person who brought true joy to my life was my younger brother Leo, who was born completely deaf. I had spent years mastering American Sign Language just to communicate with him, and it was the one skill I possessed that brought me genuine pride. That particular October morning was incredibly hectic as employees rushed through the glass lobby to meet their deadlines. While organizing presentation files near the front desk, I noticed an elderly man in a sharp blue suit who looked completely lost. The receptionist dismissed him quickly because he could not speak, and his hands began moving in frantic gestures. Nobody else stopped to look. My supervisor Victoria had warned me to stay focused on my paperwork and avoid any unnecessary distractions. Yet looking at his desperate face reminded me too much of how my brother felt when people ignored him. I dropped my files on the desk and walked over to him, then raised my hands to ask if I could help. My heart was pounding wildly. The old man let out a massive sigh of relief when he realized someone finally understood his silent language. He explained that his name was Arthur and he was trying to visit his son, who worked in the building. When he revealed the name of his son was Julian Vance, the wealthiest CEO in the city, my heart stopped. This was no ordinary guest. I knew Julian Vance was a powerful figure who rarely stepped out of his top-floor corner office. I called the executive assistant upstairs to report the arrival, but she coldly told us to wait. Instead of leaving Arthur alone, I decided to ignore my actual duties and showed him around our design department to keep him comfortable. He smiled brightly at the colorful sketches. We spent an entire hour looking at campaign sketches while my phone vibrated constantly with angry messages from Victoria. When we finally walked back down to the main lobby, my furious supervisor was waiting for me. Her face was completely red with anger as she demanded to know why I had abandoned my post for a random stranger. She was ready to destroy me. Victoria grabbed my arm and loudly explained that low-level assistants were hired to make copies rather than entertain uninvited guests. She threatened to terminate my position immediately and ensure I never worked in marketing again. Just as tears began to fill my eyes, a deep voice echoed across the marble floor and commanded her to stop. The entire room became completely frozen. Julian Vance himself was standing right behind us, looking incredibly stern as the entire lobby grew completely silent. Victoria immediately began apologizing and blamed me for the entire situation, but the CEO cut her off instantly. He walked past her and looked directly at the elderly man, who was watching us with hopeful eyes. The power dynamic shifted in a single second. To my absolute astonishment, the powerful corporate leader raised his own hands and began signing a clumsy apology to his father. Julian explained that he had been watching us from the balcony above and felt deeply ashamed of his own neglect. The two men shared a powerful embrace right there in front of the stunned crowd of employees. It was a beautiful moment. The CEO invited me up to his massive office, where the walls were made of expensive polished wood. I expected to be dismissed for neglecting my duties, but Julian sat down right next to me. He confessed that my kindness had revealed a major flaw in the cold culture of his billion-dollar empire. He admitted that he had lost his way. Julian offered me a brand new executive position as the Director of Corporate Accessibility and Inclusion. He wanted me to build real programs and train the staff so no human being would ever feel invisible in his buildings again. I was completely overwhelmed with emotion as the elderly father squeezed my hand in gratitude. My quiet life as an intern was officially over. Over the next 6 months, I completely transformed the office culture by installing visual alert systems and hiring interpreters for every major meeting. Even Victoria eventually joined my weekly sign language classes after admitting she had lost sight of what truly mattered. Our firm even won a national workplace award for the changes we implemented. We finally made a real difference. Standing on that stage made me realize that true success is not about titles or wealth. It is about having the courage to notice the people who others choose to overlook. True loyalty and empathy can change the world if we simply choose to act when everyone else decides to look away. That one morning in the lobby redefined my entire future.